Do you ever find yourself wondering, where did my money go? If the answer is yes, then this video is for you because we're going to be talking about a very easy and effective way of tracking your expenses. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Patrick and this channel is the home of smart productivity, where we explore ways to simplify our lives so we can have more time and energy for the things that matter. Now, back to tracking expenses. We've been tracking expenses for 20 years now. We do it in an automated and very easy and effective way. But when we started, it was very different. We only started actually because a friend had her credit card hacked. She spotted the problem because she was very used to going through all the bank statements and checking all of her transactions. So she spotted a couple of dodgy purchases in Eastern Europe. My girlfriend and I at the time realized that we really never gave more than a glance to our bank statements. So we wondered, what if we have a problem with our credit cards too? So we took our bank statements and checked, and luckily for us there were no dodgy transactions, so our credit cards were safe. However, we discovered something worrying. We discovered that in that particular month we had spent more than our earnings. So we thought maybe this is just a blip, maybe just an unusually expensive month. But to complete our experiment, we took all the previous 6 months worth of statements and we checked all of them. And in all of them, there was exactly the same problem. Every single month we had spent more than our earnings. So we did have a problem there. We were spending more, we were biting into our savings, and we didn't have any way of realizing at what point in the month we would go above our threshold, which was our earnings. And as Peter Drucker said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So we decided to start tracking our expenses. We took a blank piece of paper, a pen, we drew 4 columns, just 4 columns, the date, the item, the amount, and the total of our expenses. And we left it by the kitchen. So every day, every evening actually, we would ask each other, how much have you spent today? And we would jot down the expenses of the day. So we would put down the date, the item that we had bought, the cost of that item, and then the total for the month. So after a few weeks, some patterns started to emerge. For example, we realized that around the 20th of the month, we were getting very close to our threshold. So we had 10 days to manage, really. And in that case, we were left wondering, okay, what do we do now? Do we cut our expenses? And that was interesting because we didn't want to renounce to anything in life. So our solution to the problem was just to delay some of these expenses. So if we wanted to go to a nice restaurant, but we knew that it would have make us go above the threshold, we would just reschedule it for next week. So in that sense, we never renounced to anything worth doing. We just had a better understanding about when we could spend that money. Another unexpected benefit of tracking our expenses was that we started spending less. We started recognizing the value of the things that we were buying. So very naturally, we started spending less on things that didn't really matter to us. It didn't even feel like renouncing to something because the value that these things were giving us was very little. So just because we were tracking our expenses, we were able to reduce them. Now, when you try to track your expenses, there are a few things that could go wrong. So I'm going to give you a list of common mistakes or pitfalls. The first one is hidden expenses. We all have subscriptions. We all have direct debits and lots of other things that generate transactions. If you don't keep track of your subscriptions, money will flow out of your wallet without you realizing it. So my recommendation is that at the beginning of the month, you jot down all your regular transactions, all your subscriptions and direct debits. Put everything on the first of the month so that as soon as you start tracking your expenses, you already have everything that will happen during the month in terms of hidden expenses already visible. And you know that you're starting your month not from 0, but from 1,000. 1,500 or maybe 2,000. The second common problem is forgetting to track your expenses. This happens. It's a new habit. It happened to us at the beginning, and sometimes it still happens to us. Very rarely, to be honest now, because it's a very well-formed habit. So my suggestion in these cases is that as soon as you realize you haven't tracked your days or some expenses, you go back and put them in. But if you can't remember the amount, put a whatever nominal amount, maybe $10 or $50, whatever makes sense to you. It's better to be conservative in this case and put a bit more rather than a bit less. And if you forget to track completely a single day or a series of days, which is very common when you're not at your usual place. So in my case, sitting at a dinner table made me think every time of jotting down my expenses. But if I was traveling in a hotel room, I just wouldn't think of it. So when you realize you've missed a day completely, just put down something like a grand total for the day and put it at $100 or whatever makes sense to you. Another very common mistake is overcomplication. Especially at the beginning, when this is a new habit, there is absolutely no need to go all in your tracking effort. No need to download complicated Excel models, no need to chart your expenses, no need to categorize every single item you put in. Keep it very simple, because at this stage it's much more important to get into the habit of tracking rather than being able to split every single transaction into categories and whatever. That is the next level, and you should go to that next level if and only if you see value in doing that. For example, in our case, in 20 years, I think we did it for, I don't know, 6 months, and then it was too complicated, so we abandoned it. At some point, after a few months, you will have such a good understanding of how you spend your money, there will be no need to go for categories, for charts, and anything else. So my recommendation would be keep it very simple. A piece of paper, pen, 4 columns, and that's it. 1 minute a day, nothing more. Do it every day. Don't overcomplicate it. The last mistake, maybe not a mistake, but let's call it a last suggestion, is to try and do it with someone else. If you have a tracking partner, it's going to be much easier to stick to the habits of tracking, because you're going to remind each other to track expenses. You will help each other to remember how much you've spent during the day. It happened to us, to my girlfriend and I, a lot at the beginning, that someone would forget to track or maybe forget some expenses, and the other was able to remind them to put something in. So if you can, do it with someone, but if you can't, don't worry. Just try and stick to the habit of tracking your expenses every evening. At the same time, same place, keep it super simple and get it done. The strategy we discussed so far is a very simple one. It only takes pen and paper to get started, but if it's more convenient for you, I've also prepared a PDF version of this tracker that you can download and print and use to track your expenses. Check the description below and you will see how to download it. If you follow the simple steps that we've discussed, you will be amazed by how quickly you get control of what you spend and when. And the next step is going to be to save money, because once you track your money, it's easier to save. And if you're looking for suggestions on how to save very effectively, check out this video.